God forbid there's a shrine in this shop. Why is no one coming to make hair in my shop?
Your hands are soft. It's not painful.
In the crowded town of Riverside, where survival moved faster than dreams, lived a young woman named Esther. Esther had always believed that hard work would eventually speak for her. She believed that patience was rewarded and that loyalty meant something. That belief was the reason she stayed for 4 long years in a salon where her hands never truly touched hair. The salon belonged to Vanessa, a young woman only a few years older than Esther. Vanessa was fashionable, confident, and sharp-tongued. Because her name was on the shop signboard, everyone called her Madame, even though she still laughed loudly with customers and scrolled her phone while apprentices worked. From the first day Esther arrived, she noticed the difference. Other girls were taught how to braid, fix wigs, relax hair, and style brides. Esther was given a broom. "Clean the floor properly," Vanessa would say without looking up. When Esther finished sweeping, she was sent to wash towels. After that, she arranged attachments, cleaned mirrors, fetched water, and stood outside calling customers under the hot sun. Whenever she gathered courage to ask, Vanessa's answer was always the same: "Not yet, Esther, watch first." But watching never became doing. New apprentices came in and within weeks were already making hair. Some left after graduation. Esther stayed behind. Quiet, obedient, hopeful. Customers sometimes noticed her careful assistance. "This girl is very gentle," one woman once said. Vanessa smiled tightly that day and never allowed Esther near a customer again. At home, life offered no comfort. Esther's younger brother, Daniel, had been ill for a long time. Hospital visits swallowed every naira her mother managed to earn selling food by the roadside. Some nights there was nothing to eat but plain water and prayers. Esther often lay awake staring at the ceiling, promising herself that once she finished her training, everything would change. But Vanessa seemed to be determined to make sure that day never came. Then, without warning, the salon closed. "I'll be traveling," Vanessa announced one morning, locking the door. "The shop will be closed for 2 months." The apprentices stared at her in disbelief. "What about our pay?" someone asked. Vanessa shrugged. "You'll manage." Just like that, Esther was sent home with nothing, no money, no support, no explanation. Weeks passed. Esther searched everywhere for work, but no one wanted an apprentice who had never been allowed to practice properly. Hunger returned. Rent reminders came. Daniel's condition worsened. It was a neighbor, Mrs. Johnson, who finally said what Esther needed to hear. "If your hands are good, start small. Don't wait for anyone again." With borrowed money and quiet determination, Esther rented a tiny shop. 1 cracked mirror, 2 plastic chairs, a small shelf. She named it Esther Hair Touch. The first days felt like hope returning. Neighbors came, church members came. They praised her patience and neatness. "My hair is very clean. You are careful. It lasted long." Esther smiled, encouraged. Then something strange happened. They didn't return. Days passed with no customers. Rent waited. Suppliers demanded payment. Daniel needed medicine. Esther began to panic. Across the road, another salon was always full. Women came out complaining loudly. "My head is burning. This hair is too tight. I can't wait to loosen it." Yet they always returned, again and again. Esther noticed everything. She listened. She compared. One evening, she sat alone in her empty shop, staring at her reflection in the mirror. The praise she once felt proud of now sounded like a curse. How will I survive? Outside, generators roared. Inside, her thoughts grew heavy. That night, Esther locked her shop, went home, and lay on her bed without sleep. A thought, quiet, dangerous, and tempting, began to form. And for the first time since she started dreaming, Esther wondered how far she was willing to go just to survive. Days passed after that sleepless night. Esther could not stop thinking about her empty shop. Each passing hour made her dreams feel heavier, like something or someone was waiting to push her into despair. It was on one unusually quiet evening that Ruth, her old friend from the apprenticeship days, appeared at the small shop. Ruth had always been daring, fearless, and outspoken, qualities Esther had envied but never dared to emulate. Now she seemed different, quiet, almost secretive, her eyes darting nervously to the empty street outside. "You look exhausted," Ruth said softly. Her voice carried weight, like a warning cloaked in concern. "I am," Esther admitted. "I don't know what to do anymore. People don't return. Rent is due. Daniel needs medicine. Nothing I do seems to help." Ruth leaned closer, lowering her voice even further. "I know a way to fix everything. A way to make your shop busy again for good. But it's not something everyone can do. It's dangerous." Esther frowned. "Dangerous how?" Ruth paused. Her eyes darted to the cracked mirror, then back at Esther. "There's a man, a Baba, deep in the Oru forest. People go to him when they want success that the world refuses to give. Not everyone returns the same. Some come back richer, some come back broken. But he can help you, Esther." "A forest? A Baba? Are you serious?" "I am," Ruth said, her tone sharp now. "You're desperate, I know you are. I've seen it in your eyes." Esther sat silent for a long time. The words, strange as they were, began to root. The forest? The Baba? Maybe this was the only way. Maybe she had no other choice. 3 nights later, as the moon hung low and silver over Riverside, Ruth guided Esther to a narrow, twisting path at the edge of town. The road disappeared into tall, dark trees. Even the crickets seemed quieter here. "This is it," Ruth whispered. "Once we enter, there is no turning back until he sees you." Esther's stomach twisted, but she followed. Every step felt heavier than the last. Shadows twisted like hands along the path. The wind carried whispers she could not understand. Somewhere deep in the forest, an owl hooted, but it sounded almost like a warning. Finally, they arrived at a small clearing. A dim fire burned in the center, throwing flickering shadows on twisted trees. And there, sitting cross-legged, was the Baba. He was old, yes, but not frail. His eyes shone like embers, sharp and piercing. Around him, objects she could not name glimmered in the firelight. His voice when he spoke was low and commanding. "You have come," he said, his eyes locking on Esther. "I can give you what you desire, but power comes with price. You must be willing to carry it every day. Will you?" Esther swallowed hard. I will do anything." The Baba nodded slowly. "First, you must wear this." He held out a wig. Long, black, and unnaturally shiny. Esther hesitated. The wig seemed alive in his hands, moving slightly as if eager. Something about it made her heart pound, but she reached out and took it. Next, the Baba said, opening a small pouch, "This must be worn on your fingers whenever you walk. It will make your touch special. But every day, you must also sprinkle this," he said, producing a small container filled with a dark liquid-like substance, "in your shop. Only then will the gift be yours fully." Esther stared. Her pulse raced. Fear tangled with hope. This is dangerous. This is forbidding. But maybe it's the only way. Ruth whispered from behind her, "It's now or never." Esther nodded and left the forest as the first rays of dawn touched the treetops. She held the wig in her hands like a secret treasure, the small pouch tight against her chest, and the container tucked safely in her bag. Back in her shop, everything felt different. Even before putting on the wig, the air seemed heavier, charged, almost alive. The mirror reflected her face, but now it seemed sharper, more commanding. When she slid the wig over her head, her hands instinctively rose, trembling. She could feel something new, something powerful. Her first customer of the day entered, a woman with thin, dull hair. Her fingers moved over the strands with a confidence she had never felt before. Each motion seemed to make the hair glow slightly, smoother, shinier. The woman gasped. "I've never felt this wonderful," she whispered. Word spread. By the next week, her tiny shop was bustling. Women came from across Riverside to see the miraculous stylist. They praised her, marveled at her skill, and eagerly booked appointments in advance. Her income multiplied overnight. But each night, Esther remembered the forest. The Baba's warning lingered in her mind. Power comes with a price. At times, she would glance at the small container she had brought back. Its contents seemed darker in the moonlight. A shiver would run down her spine, but she told herself it was only superstition. After all, she was succeeding now. Finally, she was no longer invisible. Success, however, cast a shadow. At night, when the streets were silent and Riverside slept, Esther sometimes felt whispers echoing in her shop, as if the walls themselves remembered the forest, the Baba, and the dark pact she had made. Shadows shifted unnaturally around the mirror. Sometimes the reflection in the window did not perfectly match her movements. She shook her head, telling herself she was tired, imagining things. But deep inside, a seed of fear had been planted. Fear that this gift, however powerful, might one day demand something far greater than she could imagine. Esther's success was unlike anything Riverside had ever seen. Word spread like wildfire that her hands could transform hair in ways no one else could. Soon, people began to queue outside her tiny shop, waiting hours, sometimes overnight, to secure an appointment. At first, it was a trickle. A neighbor here, a church member there, but soon, every morning, the line stretched past the street corner, down the alleys, and even into the market. People were willing to wait until the next day if it meant they could get her hands on their hair. Mothers brought daughters, young men came for neat trims, and even travelers from other towns arrived. With the influx of customers came wealth. Esther expanded. She rented another shop across town and eventually bought her own building, complete with several chairs, mirrors, and shelves filled with every beauty product imaginable. She even built a house for her family, one bigger than she had ever imagined. Esther became proud, very proud. She wore expensive clothes, adorned herself with jewelry, and moved through Riverside like a queen in a court of commoners. Every glance at her reflection reminded her of how far she had come. Every whisper of admiration from customers fueled her confidence. Yet, even in her pride, the secret of her power, the wig, the fingers' adornment, and the dark substance, the very things that had made her a sensation, remained her closest secret. She carried it carefully in a small leather bag, never letting anyone see it. One morning, after returning from a short errand, Esther left the bag on the floor as she opened her shop. A stray dog, attracted by the scent of the mysterious items, crept in silently, snatched the bag in his jaws, and ran off down the street before anyone could stop it. Esther didn't notice immediately. She went about her day, greeting customers, running her hands through their hair, smiling as usual. But soon, something strange began to happen. The first few customers looked uneasy. I don't know, one woman whispered, glancing at the corners of the shop. It feels strange here.
God forbid there's a shrine in this shop.
Like a shrine, God forbid, and she left. Then another. By midday, almost 50 customers had entered, whispered the same words, and walked out without paying. The line outside dwindled. Whispers turned to rumors. By evening, Riverside streets buzzed with talk. Esther's salon. There's something wrong there. People say there's a shrine. Panic gripped Esther's heart. She searched frantically, realizing her bag was gone, and with it, the wig, the hand adornment, and the substance, the very things that had made her a sensation. Desperate, she ran to the only person who could help, the Baba in the Oru forest. But when she arrived at the clearing, she found a small hut burned to the ground. The Baba had died months earlier, leaving no one to guide her, no way to restore her secret power. From that moment, her life began to unravel. Shops she had built burned down mysteriously. Customers who had once flocked to her now avoided her entirely. The pride that once lifted her now suffocated her. Esther had nothing. No money, no shop, no fame. Her family's house, once a symbol of triumph, was gone. Hunger gnawed at her stomach. Her brother Daniel still needed care, and her nights were filled with tears, self-reproach, and regret. I should have never gone there, she whispered one night, her face pressed against the cold ground. If I had known, if I had only walked honestly. Days passed in misery. She wandered riverside carrying only her memories and the heavy weight of her mistakes. People avoided her. She begged for food. She cried until her voice was hoarse. But life, as it always does, gave her a second chance. She began humbly, hawking pure water on the streets, working tirelessly under the sun. She treated every customer with honesty, smiled genuinely, and slowly, very slowly, trust returned. Her hands, skilled and patient, were once again admired, but this time for genuine talent, not shortcuts or mysterious power. Months later, a young, wealthy businessman noticed her diligence, her resilience, and her kindness. He offered her more than just business help. He offered her partnership, friendship, and eventually love. They married, building a life together filled with respect, trust, and fulfillment. Esther never forgot her past. She kept her story close to her heart, a warning and a lesson for herself and anyone who would listen.
Moral lesson. 1. Shortcuts to success may bring quick fame, but they come with consequences that can destroy everything. 2. Pride and greed blind us to the value of honest work. 3. True success comes from patience, persistence, and integrity. 4. Life always gives a second chance to those willing to start over honestly. 5. Regret is heavy, but redemption is possible for those who commit to change.
The end. Please subscribe for more stories. Folktales by Favor Hillary wishes you a happy new year. Where are you watching from?